Hello, creative people, guys and girls, ladies, gentlemen, superheroes, supervillains. Welcome to another video from filmandgamecomposers.com. I am your host for this review, Meena Shamaly, and today I'll be taking you through Virtu Cinematic Thunder, Epic Orchestral Toms, as you can see over here. And they were kind enough, Big Fish Audio, who distributes Virtu instruments, were kind enough to provide me with an NFR copy of the software. So I wrote them a demo, which is up on the website, called Godzilla Complex, if you want to look it up. And yeah, I'm doing a review as per that. So I'll be looking at the demo track I wrote, which you'll be listening to now. And we'll explore the library through that. So let's have a listen to the track, Godzilla Complex. Here we go. So that's the track, Godzilla Complex. And I called it that because honestly, as I was writing the demo, I had the Godzilla trailer, the new Godzilla trailer for 2014, running in the background on my other screen. And I like to do that is when I'm not writing for something specific, if it's not for a film or a scene or a pitch or anything, I would put on a video and write something to match that feel, which is, I think, a good way to kind of get your ball rolling. And having a concept for anything you're working on, whether the concept is a video or, you know, an intellectual process, whatever it is, it can work in your favor and can get the juices flowing because it gives you a very specific idea of what you're writing. But that's besides the point. That's intellectual gibberish. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so let's have a look. The library. It is a Kontakt 5 library and works for the free Kontakt players, so you don't need the full Kontakt version, the full version of Kontakt 5. And even if you did have it, you wouldn't be able to go in and edit it because it's locked. So that's, you know, the developer's choice, which is their choice. You can't do anything about it. I would have wished I could have gone in, but maybe in an update they can provide some more features, which I'll talk about in a bit. So the library, I'll just bring up the page over here. $199.95 from Big Fish Audio. I tried the Virtu website and it wouldn't work for some reason. So I think it's down at the moment, but that's fine. That's fine. And as you heard in the track, or as I hope you heard, the drums have a lot of punch, a lot of impact, and that's always what I'm looking for in a good drum library. But at the same time, it works well at the top of the dynamic range, and as much at the bottom, at the soft. So at the beginning, the first half of the track, you heard a lot of the softer hits, which this library does both really well. And I didn't really have a lot of effects on it. Had a little bit of imaging, a little bit of stereo, as you can see. Tiniest bit of reverb on one to push it back, but that was about it. So let's have a look at the library. The library comes in 8 patches. It's technically 4 patches because they're repeated. There's a normal version and a slam version. The slam version just has the effects over here activated in different ways, and they've messed around with it to make it sound, I don't know, louder and more trailer-like. So it's a pretty cool thing. I didn't use any of the slam versions. I used the normal versions. And as you can hear, this is how they sound organically out of the box. There really isn't any effect being engaged in any of these. But I will have a look at those as we go along in the video, which I'm going to try to keep a little short this time. So it comes in group hits, group random, solo mallets, and solo sticks. So first thing I'll do is I've got an empty Kontakt instance here, and I'm just going to load up the tracks and play them. Load up the patches and play them, and then I'll show you briefly what they did in the track. So I'll put this down a little bit. So we got, first I'll look at this at the solo ones. So solo mallets. So it's a bit loud. I'll just put it down. Now the first thing we'll notice is on the interface, 3 mic positions. Pretty standard practice these days to record percussion libraries, or many libraries, percussion or not. Anything that fits into an orchestra, do 3 mic positions, 2 or 3 mic positions. And usually when they're mic positions, they're not just 3 mics or anything, or 3 sets of mics. Sometimes it's a mix of mics to create the close mic and the far mic and that kind of thing. So you'll find a stage mic, a tree mic, and a surround mic. So stage is right up close next to the instrument. Tree is above where the conductor would stand, so you deck a tree. And surround is further back in the hall. And they're recorded in a really nice sounding hall as well. And it really makes a difference to the sound. So let's have a quick listen to the 3 mic positions. So first, let's just disengage. I'll just pull the faders down. So we'll go with the stage first. So that's the stage, pretty nice and close. We have the tree. So that gives you a nice roomy sound, but at the same time it's still up in your face. And the surround will be pretty big. So it's pretty big and far. And there is a tiny bit of a latency when you play because that is the distance of the mics from the drums. And if you layer them in with the tree, it becomes more of a reverberant effect. And then put it back with the close. So you get a pretty nice full sound. And one thing I really admire about the library is that the mapping is consistent across most of the patches. Actually, across all of the patches. Some of them just don't have the same things. No, they have the same things, but some of them have things that others don't. I'll show you in a minute. Why am I telling you this? So, the first thing, and they have seven sets of toms, as you can see in the picture. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think there's some little ones, but I'm not sure. But it looks like 7 sets of toms anyway. There are 7 collections, 7 little blue areas. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're actually no. This one is a collection. The first 2 keys are just hits, and I think one of them is harder than the other. This is a flam, which sounds like maybe both of them being hit together. This is a roll, another roll, and a continuous roll here. Dynamically controllable by the mod wheel. Brilliant choice. So it's the same across also. And that is consistent across all the patches. So I'll open up the... We have the mallets here. We have the sticks as well. We have the groups. And group random is different. It's actually set out to be a different one. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. But yeah, that is the solo mallet. So this is the toms being hit by mallets. I have got the wrong thing engaged. There we go. So you get 6 different toms, and then right up the top you got a collection. I think they're played all together, or some of them are played together. I'll play them out for you. So you got the lower stuff here. And then you got a higher one over here. So we've got a very wide range, and right up the top we've got... I think they're stacked somehow. I'm not sure, but it's a really nice effect. So that's the top, that's the bottom 2. Sounds similar. I think they just done 2 at a time. They had just done 2 at a time. So that's a natural kind of thing. Now, one thing that is a point of complaint for me for this library, and it would not have been a point of complaint if they had either A, provided a velocity response curve on the interface, or allowed me to actually go in. Because I can't go in, there's no wrench, because it's locked. Because sometimes I feel the velocity response isn't what it should be. And maybe this is realistically how the drums are supposed to sound, but I am not hitting a real drum. I am hitting a keyboard triggering a sample. So maybe what I'm going for doesn't really work. And there isn't a way to alter the volume of the samples in response to the dynamic. So a dynamic knob in most other libraries would make the softer samples a little louder so that when you play them, you can actually hear them, and they set in more consistently with the rest of the track. I did raise this point with Steven from Big Fish Audio, and he said, yeah, well, that's probably a point they're going to take on board. He'll refer it back to the Virtu team, and maybe that'll be part of an update. There's no promises here. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone, but I hope that if there is an update, there's at least something on the interface that can edit the velocity. So that is my one point of complaint across the patches. So yeah, just play along, why not? I'll go into the effects and we'll have a quick look at them. So we've got a transient master, we've got an EQ, we've got a limiter, and we've got a compressor. Now, the velocity points I was making just before can be countered with the compressor, because the compressor can be mixed in. It doesn't have to be entirely just the compressor effect. So I'll turn it on. So this is what it sounds like without it. And so got the ratio at 1:4. Yeah, maybe 1:3. Something like that. So to an extent it can counter it, but what you can do is you put the mix at 50 and it becomes parallel compression. So to an extent my complaint can be countered with this, sure. But I'd like to not have to rely on an effect to do that. I'd rather have access to the samples and manipulate them how I need them in my track. It wasn't much of an issue. At first it kind of threw me off. I wasn't sure what I'm supposed to do. But ultimately you can do this and it'll be fine. And the parallel compression is probably a brilliant... Not probably, it's definitely a brilliant idea to have in this track. So yeah, I lied. There wasn't just those four. We had distortion as well. We have stereo width, and we have reverb and delay, which can be applied to every single output. So if I had... They're all turned down in this as a default, but I'll turn it up for, say, the close... I'll just put the close mics on. So you can edit it here. You can do some really trippy stuff. And pan it out so it becomes like a ping pong effect. And you can put the delay back up. Sorry, the reverb. I've turned it up pretty drastically here. But you've got a few presets. So I'm just applying it to the close mics right now. It's pretty drastic. But say I applied it here. You can put the pre-delay right up. As you can hear, those reverbs sound a little too excited in the high frequencies. Which maybe, I don't know if it's realistic, because it's convolution, so that's what the response does. But there's no way to actually dampen it, which if I had access to the wrench, I would. And I feel I'm gonna keep harping on about that, but that's fine. So that's that, and you can try the stereo width. So you can really widen it up if you need to, if your track needs that. Transient masters are quite brilliant, actually. I could probably make it sound even bigger if I need to. So what it does, it kind of messes with the attack and the sustain portions of a sample. It can make it sound roomier, if need be, without losing the punch. Because, say I turned off the close mic. The close mic's where my punch is. But so I've still got it bigger from the close mics. If you put the output right up, it'll be fine. You can sort of do that. So that's something you can do with a transient master. And you got an EQ here. Beautiful stuff. So there's quite a bit of control right off the interface. This is a limiter. Which I'm distorting right now, but that's fine. And there's distortion. There's actually distortion. See how there's a damping control? I wish there was a damping control for some of the reverb and the delay. Which is okay. So you can do some really kind of fancy stuff with there. So that's the interface. There's also a round robin control. So you get random round robin or cycle round robin. It's set to random as a default, but cycle. So random sounds a little more lively, but of course it's your choice. And you got randomized pitch and velocity. So let's see what it sounds like. So it can make your drum speak a little more. And velocity, although I don't know. This is probably if you just want to program it and have the interface take control, have the instrument take control of it and do its own little randomizations. So you say, look, I just want accents on here, here, and here, and you just do the rest and randomize it how you see fit, which would be how you would do that. So yeah, that's the effects suite. Let's have a look at these solo sticks. I should have probably done the effects after we had a look at the samples, but that's fine. So here are the close mics alone, tree mics, and surround mics. Yeah, I'm messing up. So quite a bit to do there. And you'll notice in the track, hey, guess what? I wrote a track. Do you remember the track? So what I did is I played the mouths together and the sticks together. And we have group toms as well, which are pretty nice. So let's look at the group hits. So as you can see, it's only got the 2 hits in the flam for each of the groups. And there's only 6 of them because the 7th was technically a group. And the beautiful thing is there's a lot of control. If you don't really like the sound of that hall, you can always put in, take less of this around, or less of the tree. So a lot of control over the sound. So let's reload that. Now the group's random is a pretty nifty one. They're one-off samples, no round robin. But this is what they sound like. Thank you. I'm assuming you said bless you at that point. So as you can see, these are one-off samples. But they're pretty slamming. And then there's flam versions of them. So the way I used them in the track, I added a few accents in the louder parts with them. So we'll look at the track. We'll look back at the track after we have a look at these. So the slam versions, let's have a look at these quickly. What are you doing? There we go. So we'll have a look at the solos. So this is what the solo mallets sound like normally. So. And this is what they sound like slamming. It's a pretty different sound because there's quite a bit engaged. So we've got the EQ engaged, got the limiter, and we've got the transient master engaged, as opposed to. So it's sort of like pre-mixed in a way. And have a listen to solo sticks. And then the slam version. Which can be good. Straight off the bat to kind of give you a really heavy sound. The group the group random, these will probably benefit the most. So that's your normal version. Yeah, they're nice and juicy and a little too compressed for my liking. But that's just me. I tend to like these big natural sounds, and then I don't know. Compression and I have our moments. That's me. That's fine. So those are the patches in the library. Have a quick look at their use in context. As you can see, I had the sticks and mallets and groups playing together. And you'll find here another thing which says bass drum, Tom's bass drum. Before I get into that, the reason I have them playing together, and I have them, if you can see, at octaves from each other, is I feel that these toms work better as an ensemble than they do as single hits. You can use them as single hits, but partially because of the velocity thing I mentioned, where there's no control of the velocity curve or velocity volume, and partially I don't think they were meant to be played soloistically in an orchestral context anyway. But I tend to like how they sound, so I'll just solo the toms. I'm going to the middle bit here. So those are the mallets, and I'll play the ones with the sticks. And alone they might not sound like much, but together they really work beautifully. So put them together. And that's the kind of sound I'm looking for, so I figured it works best as ensembles, in the harder bits as well. those are the mallets, sticks, and groups. So you have that ensemble sound, but you still have a little bit of that detail that each of the drums brings together. Now, I'll show you the groups random and how they fit into this equation. They kind of slam more. That's what I did. So you have this little kind of snappy group tom, giving you these strong accents. And then these are some toms that are pitched up a little to kind of add a little more. It's not really massive, but I felt that it was required. And Tom's bass drums, sorry, I pitched them down by 7 and kind of pushed them back in the room a little bit, so this is what they sound like on their own. These actually became my bass drums. Especially in the stronger range. So you see, the punch of the library is these things working together. And listen here. Now you'll find one more instance of toms. I call them shaker toms. And let's give you a listen to them on their own and then back in context. So as you can see, they're pitched up by 26 semitones. And I use them as my shakers, sort of. In the context of the rest of the toms, have a listen to them. So without it, so. They provide a little movement, a little kind of little movement. And that's one of those things I enjoy doing, is really manipulating my libraries and whatever sounds I have. And, you know, getting some more out of them than maybe was intended. So see, I got shakers, I got toms, and I got bass drums out of a toms library. Which for me bodes really well for both the quality of the sound and, you know, how I use these things. So that, I think, covers the library. We've had a look at at all the patches and seen the difference between the slam and normal. What else can I show you? I think that is it for this library. I'm going to quickly run through a couple of the other parts that I did, just because compositionally I enjoy them and because I want to make a couple of special mentions. So you would have heard quite a bit of brass. So got a bit of, because people ask this sometimes. So I got Monster low brass from Cinebrass Pro. Got some high brass from Albion. Got some, is this string bass combinations? Yep. Mixed ensembles from Symphobia. And trumpets from Cinebrass doing their thing. So the brass bit sounds like this. Just, I'll give you the big version of it. And one of the things I did with this track as well was I liked the Hall sound. I didn't want to affect it too much, so I worked with as much of the Hall sound from each of the libraries as possible. As much of I pushed it back a little as I saw fit, depending on the articulation, depending on the library, but that was me. I used some choirs, which you would have heard. So these are the magnificent sound iron choirs. So I've used a few phrases and so polysustains and phrase builders. So you heard the phrases here. And one of the things I do is I use two instances with two different phrases, and I kind of mix and match them. So that really opens up attention to the library. You don't have to stick with, if it says crucifixus, you don't have to just always say crucifixus. You say cruci and then the second half of adoramus or something. Cruciamus. And make up your own little gibberish. And we had... So much the same. I use them in a couple of instances to mix and match them, which it's not the place to go into, but I'll just wanted to quickly show you that. And I just wanted to just quickly mention that last bit. The choir swoop is actually from Omnisphere. But the phrases here, I wanted to highlight something to you. And this is a neat trick that came as a result of the of making this track. The tempo is 102, and I've got these fast polysustains. They're usually much slower. You disengage the external host and put the tempo right up, and now you can play with these as much as you want. So I've got them at nearly double the tempo. 400 is the top it would go in Kontakt, so that's how much I needed it. If I put it back, it'd be... But if I do this, and you get those really kind of quick sustains, so that's how I did that, in case anyone was interested. Got some strings happening, so got some... I like this combination of the low strings from Iceni, Albion, and Symphobia 2. So it does a really cool thing, both staccatos and legatos. And I've got a few effects, so these are colegnos, so I just wanted to... Colegnos, I keep saying that wrong. I put these with the rest of it. With the toms, it sounds like this. So it helps. And got some high strings from Albion as well. And a bit from Logria, which is fantastic. It's a tiny touch of detail and can work in aggressive things, contrary to what many would have you believe. And yeah, so I've got the longs as well happening. High string effects, you hear a few of those happening. And high octave strings, that's all still part of the instance. This bit I'm quite proud of, actually. I used action strings in the least way you'd expect it. I went on those alien phrases. So there's quite a bit you can do with these, with action strings. So I used some of these pre-baked phrases and manipulated them and did all that kind of stuff with them, which I'm quite proud of. Sorry, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here or anything. And synthesizers, mostly, they're Omnisphere, all of them. And I want to, in this instance, give a big shout out to Mr. Matt Bowdler, aka The Unfinished, because these are from his sound sets. So usable, and this runs through the whole track. And so usable. So if you haven't got yourself, where is it? Omnisphere Horizon 1 and 2, get them. Trust me, you will love them. And yeah, so last thing is our sound effects. Oh, I got some symbols from Albion as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before. But effects, pretty much most of them are alpha. Pretty much, yeah. So Project Alpha, Hybrid 2, Daniel James. Get this library as well. If you haven't got it, I don't know what you're doing. You're probably writing concert music, which doesn't require electronics. That's fine. But this is brilliant, and it's a tool that I use across many of my tracks in many different genres, be it electronic, be it orchestral, be it hip-hop. I've actually used it in a hip-hop track, and it works across a lot of genres. So get this, get Project Alpha as well. Trust me, you will thank me for it. And I would specifically, there are a few risers in here, but specifically I was really loving the raw cello sounds, which you hear right towards the end, right about here. Let's play that again so you can see the keys. So, yeah, very useful. And all these little bits and pieces, you put them together and you mess around with them. As you could tell, I really love what I do. Which, you know, I'd be crazy to be doing music if I didn't love it, because, you know, it's music, it's the arts, it's... That's a different discussion. Never mind. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the sound of this library and its playability. So obviously, in conclusion, apart from the velocity thing, which can be counteracted with the compression, so apart from the fact that you can't edit the velocity curve in response, I really like this library and I really like its punch. Without any effects, I've got a lot of punch out of it, and I'm quite enjoying it. Quickly recap, we got $199.95. I think for the amount of work you're probably going to do with it, that's probably a fair price. The introduction price was about $149.95, so that could have been a better offer. But yeah, check it out and check out the demo. It's up here, Godzilla Complex, and the naked version of it, just no orchestra, just the toms. I'll close it out. I'll play you the naked version, and we'll see you in the next one. So this is only toms. Have a good day, a good evening, a good night, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Keep creative, and I'll see you soon.